Thank you, Brittany, for the introduction, and thank you to the InnerSource Commons for hosting this fantastic event. To illustrate the discoveries I've made about effective InnerSource, I'll share a story about my journey to effective InnerSource. You might have experienced a similar journey. You've joined a new company and want to create code with people outside your immediate team, but you don't know where to start. That's where I found myself when I joined Nike. My first step was to search for a backend service with clean code that included standard features such as observability instrumentation and secrets management. After searching many repositories, I found a suitable project and reviewed it with my team. Unfortunately, I couldn't find a community-led blueprint, but the code met our needs, so we moved on as we often do. At that moment, I realized there was an opportunity to increase collaboration at Nike, though I hadn't yet heard of InnerSource. Over time, I learned about communities of practice at Nike through Russ Rutledge, our executive director of the InnerSource Commons. Russ was sitting at a desk within earshot, and I heard him talking about promoting developer communities of practice. Later, I learned about the InnerSource Commons and started learning about InnerSource. After learning about developer communities, I attended several sessions. I realized that the project my team had borrowed earlier was based on a Java blueprint maintained by a community of Java developers. Through this experience, I learned that community collaboration is a critical component of effective InnerSource. After several years at Nike, I was fortunate to land a new position as a principal engineer charged with deploying InnerSource at scale to support platform engineering. Thanks to my previous experience, one of my first steps was to start an InnerSource community of practice. I began by drafting a vision and mission statement, then invited several colleagues to provide feedback. After introducing them to the concept of InnerSource and the charter, I asked them where we would like to focus our energy. My gut told me project discoverability would provide the most value. The community agreed, and we started a project discoverability initiative. We needed to keep track of our efforts, so we added our initiatives to a community backlog and started working on project discoverability. The backlog helped us stay on track and monitor our community's progress. To keep the project discoverability initiative focused, we crafted a clear problem statement and a diagram of our current desired state of InnerSource to communicate our mission. We started by adding InnerSource projects to an internal wiki. However, we wanted a searchable catalog of projects. After brainstorming, the community learned that we have an internal developer intelligence team. They maintain an API that includes Active Directory records, GitHub repositories, Agile squads, and other entities. The API was a perfect fit for our immediate and long-term needs. We asked the team if we could make InnerSource adjustments to the API, but unfortunately, the project wasn't ready. As our InnerSource community's influence grew, we quickly convinced the team to make the developer intelligence project InnerSource ready. They created a new major version with extended project visibility and expanded documentation. Later, the developer intelligence team extended the API in partnership with our community to allow queries by repository topics. We then settled on adding an InnerSource topic to projects as a standard and introduced project discoverability. This is a significant win for our community and Nike. Today, we have many projects tagged with the InnerSource topic, and we continuously grow our catalog. With our limited resources, we produced an exciting prospect for teams. As a result, more people joined the community, and we expanded our efforts. To reinforce our community foundation, we returned to the basics and built an InnerSource recipe for our platform engineering handbook. Our handbook is our internal collection of best practices, standards, and guidance for platform engineers and stakeholders that use those platforms. We started the recipe by explaining why InnerSource is essential our core principles, how to get started, and gratuitous links to the InnerSource Commons. We also documented how to use the Developer Intelligence API to find InnerSource projects. We built the recipe through a series of mobbing sessions and added our mobbing process to the InnerSource recipe. After a few sessions, we finished the recipe and had assembled a robust core community. New people learned about our success, which led to more contributions. Behind the scenes, another team was creating an InnerSource directory. This InnerSource directory is viewable alongside open source, build system information, incident reporting, and other valuable data points. They just picked up the API, they picked up the recipe, and they just hit the ground running and stood up that InnerSource project. Next, we invited project owners to our InnerSource community to explain why and how someone may want to contribute to their project, while helping them make their projects discoverable and approachable in line with our standard guidance. This led to even more contributions, newly discovered projects, and significant increase in cross-team collaboration, which really is what InnerSource is all about. We continue to grow thanks to the seeds we planted. For example, our community met a colleague who's building instructor-led training materials and is standing up an instructor-led training community. My colleague developed internal InnerSource training materials as a community project, which further advances InnerSource. Of course, I invited him to reuse the InnerSource Commons valuable resources to accelerate his efforts. Our next steps are to continue project discovery, promote InnerSource, and measure progress. We have big plans to map our InnerSource projects to our global catalog of technical solutions. Once we have a mapping in place, we'll link to the platform business capabilities that our InnerSource projects support. This will help us more effectively demonstrate the direct business value of InnerSource to senior leadership and further drive adoption across the enterprise. During the process of standing up our InnerSource practice, etc., we used patterns from the InnerSource Commons library. Each pattern addressed a specific challenge we faced and built on the work that came before it. The InnerSource portal pattern solved our project discoverability challenge. After establishing the community, we needed to solve the problem I had experienced when searching for that back-end service. We started by adding projects to an internal wiki, but we needed something searchable. The pattern helped us think through our approach, leading us to the Developer Intelligence API and adding the InnerSource tagging standard. Projects self-register by adding the topic, and the API enables searchable discovery across the organization. This pattern transformed how teams discover InnerSource projects at Nike. The standard-based documentation pattern ensured we had consistent guidance for teams. After we had projects discoverable and a growing community, we needed to standardize how teams approached InnerSource. We built the InnerSource recipe in the Platform Engineering Handbook through mobbing sessions, documented our core principles, getting started steps, and how to use the Developer Intelligence API. This documentation gave teams a clear path forward and added credibility to our efforts. The core team pattern emerged naturally as our community grew. We established a dedicated group to maintain our InnerSource infrastructure and support contributors. This team became the backbone of our InnerSource practice, ensuring continuity and providing a place for new contributors to find help. The review committee pattern provided governance through Nike's open source program office structure. Having an established review process helped managers feel comfortable with InnerSource initiatives while giving projects the freedom to operate without micromanagement. The governance structure supported our resource-constrained approach by providing oversight without requiring constant management attention. These patterns worked together. The InnerSource portal enabled discoverability, which made standard base documentation necessary for consistency, which led to core team for maintenance, all supported by a review committee for governance. Each pattern built on the previous one, creating a foundation that supported our resource constrained approach to InnerSource. If you haven't heard about Fearless Change by Linda Rising and Mary Lynn Mans, I highly recommend reading this book. We applied the patterns to build momentum despite our limited resources. The evangelist pattern was my role from day one. When I started as a principal engineer, I became a passionate advocate for InnerSource. I drafted the vision and mission statement, introduced colleagues to the concept, and consistently promoted InnerSource adoption. And I still do to this day. And just ask anyone at work, they're going to say, quit talking about InnerSource. Without someone actively evangelizing, InnerSource would have remained an abstract idea instead of becoming a practice. Group identity happened immediately after I drafted the charter. I invited several colleagues to provide feedback on the vision and mission statement. After introducing them to InnerSource, I asked where we should focus our energy. These colleagues became the foundation of our InnerSource community of practice, and that community became the engine for everything we accomplished. Small successes kept us moving forward. My gut told me project discoverability would provide the most value, so we started there instead of trying to solve everything at once. We began by adding projects to an internal wiki, then moved to the Developer Intelligence API, and then to topic tagging. Each step was a small win that built momentum. If we had tried to tackle everything simultaneously, we would definitely have failed. Champion Skeptic helped us refine our approach. When I invited colleagues to provide feedback on the charter, I wanted honest feedback from people who might push back or question our assumptions. This feedback shaped our focus on discoverability and helped us avoid paths that wouldn't work in our environment. Local sponsor was critical when we needed the developer intelligence team to make changes. Initially, they said their project wasn't ready for InnerSource. As our community's influence grew, we convinced them to create a new major version with extended project visibility and expanded documentation. Later, they extended the API to allow queries by repository topics. Without their sponsorship, we wouldn't have had the infrastructure we needed. Do Food happened during our mobbing sessions. We built the InnerSource recipe in the Platform Engineering Handbook through a series of mobbing sessions. These sessions built relationships, created shared understanding, and strengthened our community. We even added our mobbing process to the InnerSource recipe so others could use it. Smell of success maintained our momentum. When the developer intelligence team made their project InnerSource friendly, that was a significant win. We treated it as a teaching moment and shared it. When we finished the recipe and assembled a robust core community, we used that success to teach others. When project owners joined our community meetings and made their projects discoverable, we recognized those wins as opportunities to demonstrate value. Each success became a teaching moment that attracted new contributors and kept existing ones engaged. These patterns worked together. Evangelists and group identity got us started. Small successes and champion skeptic kept us focused. Local sponsor gave us infrastructure. Do Food strengthened relationships. Smell of success maintained momentum. Without any of these patterns, our resource constrained approach would have struggled. So you might wonder, how can you learn more and benefit from my experience and others' experience running OSPOs or ISPOs? I'm a trusted committer in the InnerSource program Office Working Group. If you haven't heard about it, we're a group of people building valuable artifacts for InnerSource program leaders. The ISPO Working Group provides a community for InnerSource program office leaders to collaborate on shared challenges. Whether you're looking for materials to educate senior leadership, need guidance on measuring InnerSource success, or want to contribute patterns that worked at your organization, the working group is here to collaborate and build together. One of the reasons I joined the working group was to build metrics to measure our progress. As a result of our efforts, we have published a set of goals, questions, and metrics and established a clear contribution path for the InnerSource Commons community. I highly recommend looking that up on our website, and if you want direct path, let me know. In summary, we started with a small community and a big vision. We leveraged our limited resources to build our InnerSource practice, and we're constantly growing. The time we spent was minimal, but the impact was significant. We believe the critical components of effective InnerSource for our community are as follows: project discoverability, standardization, community management, and leadership alignment. I hope you'll benefit from our experience. That concludes the presentation. Thank you for your time.